As we get deeper and deeper into the semester, one question tends to pop up. Are there any extra credit activities that I can do to improve my grade? By the time the end of the semester hits, this question might be asked tons of times by your students. If you're not sure if you want to use extra credit in your classes, take a look at this video because I'm going to go over 5 different extra credit activities that actually help students engage more in their learning experience in your classroom. Let's get started. Hey there, it's Erica from Ever Educating, and this video is actually in connection to a blog post that I wrote a while ago that has been getting a lot of interest, and so I figured I'd create a video version of it. And so it's 5 different ideas for extra credit activities that you can do in your college classroom with your students. And so this channel is all about teaching tips, tools, and resources and ideas for the college classroom. So I figure, let's go ahead and talk about how can we get students to engage in learning even more while offering extra credit opportunities. Because there will be those students who know they're going to have a borderline grade and they want to kind of increase that to the 90 or the 80 or the 70, whatever the case may be. So the first activity that I really think you should consider is having an activity that requires students to respond to each other's works. So for example, in my literature courses, one of the activities I have them do requires them to post in a discussion forum on our LMS site an analysis of one of the books we're reading in class. So that's just a regular assignment that they all have to do. They have to do at least 3 throughout the whole semester. For extra credit though, they can respond to each other's analysis in certain ways. And so I list that in the activity sheet. So for example, they can either respond by adding even more close reading and analysis that supports their argument that they're making, or they can respond by countering their argument with evidence from the text. Or they can talk more about why their argument is significant, right? Which it tends to be a key aspect of literary analysis writing. And I do have a blog post below that's all about how I teach literary analysis writing. But basically, it's responding to their peers' texts and getting extra credit points depending on how in-depth and how relevant, how strong their response is to the analysis of their classmate. And so they can respond to as many as they like until they reach X amount of points, which is the maximum. So for this activity, maybe 5 points extra credit is the maximum, but one comment or one reply might only be worth half a point or 1 point, depending on how strong it is, right? And so, consider in your own class, what kind of activities can students respond to for extra credit? The next idea is very common, again, in literature and writing courses, which is what I teach, and it's giving them a creative project to do. So in my case, when I teach children's literature, they have the extra credit activity possibility of creating their own picture book. And so this can be a concept book like the ABCs or numbers or nouns or fruit or vegetables, right? Those are concept books that they can design themselves. And so I let them partner up if they want to. Maybe one person does the illustrations and one person does the text, the verbal text, or you can create your own, by yourself. It depends on the students and what they want to do. But this again can be worth up to 5 or 10 points extra credit on a certain activity in class. And so usually I add it to the midterm or the final grade. And so if I do that, then it'd be a 5-point maximum, right? And so again, creative projects can really range and it can really fit into any class when you think about it. So I highly recommend considering, what kind of extra credit experience can you give that's more creative, that engages, other elements of students' minds when they're working in your classroom. So another possibility is some kind of digital activity. And so I've talked before about how I try to be as digital as possible when creating my major assignments, and I'll link that video below. But in this case, it's more about I use the LMS tool it's actually called CLOG, C-L-O-G, rather than blog. I guess because of class blog or collaborative blog. I'm not sure why they put a C rather than just keep it as blog. But anyways, it allows students to create blog posts that are posted into that element of the LMS site. So they go to the blog tab and you can see the writing of your students. And so in this case, I had it as an extra credit activity, again, in one of my literature courses, where I said, if you can see, connections with current events, right, that's happening inside the classroom, or maybe your other classes that you're taking, experiences you had personally, and you see connections that are relevant to what we're learning in class, you can create blog posts, and those will be worth extra credit. And again, like the other ones, it depends on how long they are, how detailed they are, how interesting and introspective they are, is how many points you get for it. And there's a max number of points that you can receive in total. And so again, this is easy because it's just an LMS site. There's no difficulty in having them do this. They're not creating their own website or anything. It's something they already have access to. So digital activities are really an easy way to make sure that you collect them without issue. You don't lose them throughout the semester. Whenever they turn it in, it's fine because it's in the one location. So you don't have to worry about like, what date did I assign this extra credit? Because it can just go to that one place in your LMS site. All right, so that's the third idea. So one amazing thing about college campuses is how many events happen on campus every week. And so another possibility is seeing what events connect to your class and offering it as an extra credit activity, right? And so, for example, we have the lowest lecture every year, which is a lecture connected to children's literature. And so I tell my children's literature students, if you attend the event, it's usually on a Tuesday night from like 7 to 8. It's like a 45-minute lecture, but then with a Q&A. Attend it and then write 5 takeaways, 5 things that you learned, that you found really interesting, that you saw connection to the class with, and just write it down and submit it to me by that night. So by midnight on that day, because I want to make sure that they actually do attend and they do it immediately and they're not talking to other people about it and giving extra credit away to other students, right? So I assign it and it's due that same night. But consider what events are happening on campus or even just in your community that connect to your class, and tell them, it's a free event, right? It doesn't cost anything to get extra credit. Go to it, listen to what it's saying, give me some takeaways, 5 or 10, and you can get a few points extra credit. So I usually do only about 3 or so points extra credit for this type of activity because a lot of students won't be able to go. But make sure you tell them in advance. Don't tell them the day before or the day of. Like, give them hopefully at least a week so they can plan accordingly if they want to take advantage of the activity. All right, so this is another one that I find it's great to really show students, oh, hey, like there's events on campus that might interest me or that I might learn things from the community in the same way, right? You might check your public library because they have tons of events too that can be interesting in connection to what you teach. So this one could be a bit more difficult to manage to input into your class. It just depends on the activities that you do regularly, but it's giving an aesthetic addition to a project. So for example, I've had students present presentations in like a festival at the end of the semester. They each had to present on a different book that they read outside of class. And so I said, the poster has to have certain information on it. And I listed that in the assignment sheet. Right? And you do want to think about obviously font size, spacing, that kind of stuff I am going to be looking for because you need to be able to actually read the poster, right? It's not just having the information, but having the information in a way that can be actually legible to your audience. But then I say you can get up to 5 points extra credit depending on how much time and effort you put into the aesthetics of the poster. Right? And so let's say I had a student who presented on the giving tree and they created this amazing tree on their poster that actually was created from real leaves that they pasted onto it, hot glued onto it, and then they just drew the trunk, right, with brown marker. Okay? Or one that talked about Gilmore Girls, the TV show, and the poster was actually in the shape of a TV. And then in the middle of the TV, they had different pages that flipped open on the poster, right? And so in this case, if you don't want to put any effort into it, fine. Just make sure it's legible and it has the information. But, give it a bit more creative juice, give it this appeal to the eye, and you can get extra credit just by doing so. And so you might see, are there any projects where aesthetics isn't really a requirement, so to speak, but that it would really improve the genre? And then offer that as a potential extra credit activity, which gets them thinking more deeply about the visual design of what they're creating, which I think is always important for their visual literacy. Since more than one of these tips kind of mentions using digital stuff on the LMS site, I'm going ahead and linking over here my video on some ways I use EdTech in the classroom to really help with my teaching and to help with my students' lives. But go ahead and comment below with any extra credit activities that you like doing in your classroom, and go ahead and click the like button if you found these tips helpful.